Hello, everyone. I'm Dominique.
And I'm Christina, and we are the Connected in Glass podcast.
Every week, we will feature interviews with glass artists who speak to their creative processes and overcoming challenges.
These conversations are real and raw. We hope that by sharing these stories, you're able to find some connection and know that you're not alone. We just wanted to take a moment to thank you for listening to our podcast. We're super passionate about this project and work for hours every week to bring you this content. So if you'd like to help support us, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/connectedinglass. Also, please consider joining our Facebook group, Connected in Glass Community, where we continue the conversations from these episodes. We'd love to hear from you. This episode of Connected in Glass is sponsored by Diddy Clips. Diddy Clips has changed the way we film our glassblowing videos, and we're proud to be working with them. Today, we're interviewing Christy Conley. She's a glass artist currently based in Suffolk, Virginia, who's been working with glass since 2017.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks so much
How
for
are you
joining
ladies?
us. Oh, we're great.
Thanks for having me. This is exciting.
All right. So we want to know a little bit about you. Let's skip the glass part of your life right now. Tell us a little bit about where you live, what you do for fun besides glass, and then get us into your story of how you started working with glass.
So I live in Suffolk, Virginia. We're right near the coast in what's called the Seven Cities, which is part of like Virginia Beach, Norfolk area. So there's like a lot of military as well as just like transplants all over. It's a really cool area. What do I enjoy besides glass? A lot. I do a lot of artwork. I do everything from ceramics to printmaking, which I have my own tiny press that I use to do linoleum cut prints. And I do sculptures, and I'm not into drawing and painting, but like the rest, like the visual arts, anything that I can get my hands dirty with, I do it. And then I read a lot of books too, but that also comes because for a living, because I have yet to make it full time with glass, I am a library specialist. I specialize in the visual arts section for college, Tidewater Community College here in the Tidewater area of Virginia. So I'm all about art. I do art books for my job, and then I just kind of do art for everything else. It's just everything is art.
Wow, so cool. All right. So how did you start working with glass?
So I went to the college. I started at the college before I started working there. I came back for my photography degree. And while I was in my photography degree, I needed some models for a project. And I happened to actually walk into the hallway. I was brave enough to walk up to a couple of the guys that were in the hallway. And I just said, "Hey, you guys look amazing. Can I take your picture?" And that's how the whole introduction went. They were like, "No one's ever asked us that before." Sure. I brought them into the studio. We were working on the project, and in the conversation that we were having while I was getting everything set up, they were telling me about glass blowing. And over the rest of like the semester that I met them, they would constantly see the other projects I was working on in my classes. I was taking a 3D design sculptural class, and I was taking ceramics. And they were like, I think you would really like glass blowing. I was like, I'd never heard of glass blowing. And so I was like, really? I don't know. Photography's my love. Photography's my love. Well, it happens in the last semester of that degree, I needed an extra credit. And so I was like, fine, okay, guys, I will take your glass blowing class, because they had been so bugging me. And I was like, fine, okay, I'm taking glass blowing. And after the first class, my teacher said I was ruined because I would never be able to do anything else because I fell in love at first gather. And yeah, that's how I got started. I fell in love at first gather, and I became so passionate, put everything into glass blowing.
So, can you tell us where you work out of now? Are you still able to work out of the studio that you learned in that you were going to school at, or do you work out of a private studio now?
So, up until just a couple of months ago, we were working out. I was able to just like, I got my degree in glass blowing, and I was able to just like take classes, pass the degree, and work out of that studio. But unfortunately, the hot shop on the roof and the whole building underneath it were condemned by the city of Portsmouth. So we had to move. So now our classes are held at the Chrysler Museum's Perry Glass Studio. Unfortunately, they don't have enough room for everybody in all the glass blowing classes. So I have to rent time there, which is way more expensive than paying for a semester of glass. So I work out of the Perry Glass Studio when I can afford it right now.
That is such a beautiful studio, but it is kind of small, right? For combining everything.
Well, yeah, because they have their own programs that they do, and you know they have their glass events. They have their own glass classes, but they also hold glass classes for 2 other colleges in the area and ours. And so it leaves very few slots for like blow slot time just to like get in and be able to make things. They're working on expanding, I hear, and building another part of a shop. So that's exciting. Hopefully that comes about soon. But as for now, I'm working out of the Perry Glass Studio, and it's definitely different.
And for the people who haven't seen your work, can you describe your style of work and maybe kind of tell people what you make?
That was one of the questions I was actually looking at and trying to really figure out, how do I explain my work? I'm not entirely sure how to explain my work. So I work from a furnace. I'm not a torch worker. I do furnace work. We did not have a torch working program at the college, so that's not in my wheelhouse at all. I worked from the furnace, both with partners and teams, and also a lot of solo work. I do a lot of playing with shapes and colors, but I also prefer to make things that can be useful. Like I make a lot of cups and bowls and vases of various kinds, but I also really like to put together visual sculptures. So I'm not entirely sure. For instance, I do a lot of hourglasses when I do my sculptural work. There's a lot of hourglasses and anatomical hearts, and that just comes from like personal stories and things that I'm interested in. But when it comes to a lot of my work, like my basic cups and bowls and stuff, I like playing. How complicated can I get with very simple things? So I'll take one color and see how many ways can I make that look a little bit different, you know? Can I put it in an optic mold and give it swirls? All right, well, let's take the same color and do it double swirls. And then, you know, the same color and let's do something else. So it's as complex as you can get by being simplistic. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but that's the best I can do.
You totally just described all of your work.
Yeah, that was perfect.
That was great. So where do you find inspiration for your work?
Life. Just life. Things that happen, things that interest me. With ADHD, there's so many things. I think divergently, which means I think about a lot of different things and I fall down a lot of different rabbit holes very quickly in succession. And so a lot of experiences come to me. When it comes to being as complex as I can be with very simplistic things in my basic work, it was all about, all right, I only have these 2 colors. How much work can I do with these 2 colors without making everything look like I only have these 2 colors? When it comes to my sculptural work, all of that glasswork was inspired by something. For instance, one of my favorite pieces, I made an anatomical heart inside of a large blown bell jar. And I love this piece so much, but it has to do with, like, the inspiration came because I have a heart problem. And when I'm in the hot shop, one of the things that does always kind of stay in my mind is that I have to pay attention to my body and I have to listen to my body. And when it starts screaming at me, I have to stop. And so, you know, my heart problem is something that has been a big theme. And so there's been a lot of hearts and different heart things, but also that's where the inspiration for all of my time related pieces. My heart problem is that it's wearing out faster than the rest of my body. And so I constantly feel like I am racing against a clock. I am running against time, trying to get as much in this life as I can before I can't do anything. And so there were so many things. I made a whole time machine out of glass. I did an inspirational piece where I took an hourglass and I purposely broke it in half and had the sand spilling out. And it was in memory of my brother whose life was ended too soon. And I did one for 2020 where I broke an hourglass and made it seem like everything was spilling out. So a lot of what I do in my sculpture has to do with like personal experiences and things that I'm feeling. When it comes to everything else, it's just life. They're pretty colors and swirls and patterns and things that I might see on someone else's profile that I'm just like, I like that. Let me see if I can give that a go.
Does it ever feel difficult putting out work that's so vulnerable like that? It's so close to you. Do you ever feel like it's challenging where maybe other people might have opinions on your vulnerabilities?
That's actually not something I think about when I'm putting anything out like that. It's more, for me, it's more of a way to tell my story because my health problem is something that is considered an invisible. It's not readily visible in my appearance or how I can carry myself. I mean, for the most part, I can still lift batch bags and carry them to the furnace. And when people witness me doing that, and yet on another day when I'm having a really bad heart day and I can't even make it to the bench, you know, they don't necessarily understand. So it's an invisible illness that nobody else gets to see. For me, being able to make art that kind of like tells these vulnerable tales, it's a way for me to share, hey, guess what? You know, this is what's going on with me, and this is how I feel about things. And this is my perspective. And it's a way for me to share that. And I found actually that a lot of people, when they hear kind of like the inspiration for one of these pieces, you know, it inspires them. It brings everything in a whole new light for them. So it's never really like, I've never really thought about it as, you know, I'm being super vulnerable. Okay, here you go. I'm going to be really scared. It's more like, no. Nobody knows these things. Let me put this out there and try and raise awareness. Oh, hey, guess what? You can look like you're perfectly healthy, and yet things are not okay.
Makes perfect sense. Do you ever have trouble shifting from your like work day-to-day work life to your creative around work life, or do you find that you can kind of go from one mentality to another easily?
In the beginning, I couldn't really do that, but actually I learned something thanks to the hot shop that has definitely just become kind of like, now it is something I do all the time. And that is, we call it leave it at the door. And it's because in the hot shop, there are so many dangerous things going on. You know, when you're working from the furnace, and we had a 2-bench setup in our hot shop. So when you have multiple benches and you've got multiple people moving around and there's hot glass everywhere, there are tools that could be hot, places that could be hot, there's danger everywhere that you have to be aware of, and you have to know, this beautiful dance that's going on, and you have to be aware of everybody so that, people don't catch on fire or you burn. Because there's so many dangers, it's actually dangerous to not be in that headspace to work. So one of the things that our teachers would tell us, especially Chad Clark, he was really good about saying, all right, you come in, and we had a bench. We had a green bench right next to the door. And he said, all right, you put your bags on the bench and you put everything from the day on the bench. Whatever's troubling you, you got stuck in traffic, you're a little aggravated, you put that whole feeling on the bench right there by the door. You leave it at the door, whatever's frustrating you, whatever's bothering you, you take all of that, you leave it at the door. If someone's blowing up your phone, well, you leave that at the door too. You don't bring it further into the shop, because then that causes a distraction. It can cause danger. But also, by eliminating all of that and putting yourself in the mindset of, okay, I'm here to do the creative things, and I'm here to work through things. I'm putting the main body of what I'm worried about right here at the door, and I will pick it up when I leave. It will still be here when I leave. And, if I want to get back into thinking about it, I can do that when I leave. But for now, I'm going to focus on this. That has definitely always been the way I kind of get in that headspace of, all right, I'm going to work. I'm going to work through this, because the bigger issues of if there's a really big anxiety issue, you're not going to be able to leave all of that at the door, but you're going to leave as much of it as you can, and then work through the rest as you're creating.
Can we talk a little bit about all your outside creative projects and maybe how they all come together with your glass and your TikTok? Because I think there's a combination there, right?
There's a huge combination. TikTok has given me this amazing platform to showcase everything and be able to show how I bring it all together. Really, all the artistic outlets that I have all kind of go hand in hand in some way or another. A lot of glass blowers also do ceramics. There's a big overlap, especially because, glazes are made with glass, and, a lot of the shaping, how we use different tools and stuff, they're not the same because one's hot and one's cold, but there's a lot of overlap in how you choose to go about creating shape. So there's overlap in that. Printmaking can be done on glass, in glass, with grawls. Oh my God, I love grawls. And there's this beautiful overlap of being able to kind of print some shapes, repeatedly over each other and make something completely different. Sculpture, well, glass. I use glass in my sculptures. Many of my sculptures are all glass, or as much of just glass as I can get. So there's a lot of overlap. A lot of it has to do with working with my hands, and TikTok in itself is a great platform for artists. And when I found it in 2019, there was no glass artists on there. In fact, I could only find 3 other glass artists on TikTok when I joined. So my first 3 videos that I posted, they have over 7 million views. And it's simply because at that point in time, I was very unique. Now, not so much, which is great, because now I love that there are so many glass blowing artists that are on there, and people get to see all these different styles and ways people do things. And it's not just, my way or the highway. No. You can do it this way, or you can do it that way. I like TikTok for showcasing that, but TikTok, the viewers like to watch not only the finished product, they want to see the finished product, yeah, but they love to watch us in the process, how do we get there? There's this desire in a lot of people to learn how it's made. And, when we as artists can take the time and go, all right, this is what I had to do. Let me explain why. Let me give you the layman's terms. I don't have to give you all the super technical terms. I can teach you certain technical terms, but let me tell you why. Why do I have to do this? Oh, this is why. Why do we have to anneal things? Well, do you want them to explode or not? Personally, I want them not to explode for the most part. But, being able to showcase the process is a huge thing. And for the most part, I don't think anyone on TikTok doesn't like watching that process. They love to see the process and watch how it's made. And they really enjoy learning the different aspects and the whys and the hows. And that's one thing I really like. I like being able to teach them on there and say, all right, this is how this happens. Let me tell you a little bit about it. But that's how everything comes together. All the arts just kind of like come together for me.
Have you found any trolls on there, or have you found that people are mostly like really kind?
In the beginning, I had some trolls. Mainly it was actually on my looks, because I am not the prettiest person in the hot shop. I will go ahead and tell you that. When I get into the hot shop, my whole focus is on the making and not how I look. The hot shop on the rooftop was open air. So we had these four very large garage doors that were open to the elements. So we were basically outside, but we had a roof over our head. So when it's hot outside, it was even hotter in the hot shop. And of course, when you're working in the hot shop and it's super hot, you're going to sweat. And I tend to wear a bandana around my hair, very much like a biker. I choose one with skulls. It's my absolute favorite. And I tie back all of my hair, which definitely does not make me look feminine. And I wear, breathable, baggy clothes. So I am not looking like I am, out here to be pretty. I'm looking like I'm getting ready to play with fire. And a lot of people at first, a lot of the trolls would pick on how I looked. And so like one of the first videos that I made, it affected me. I made a flower. I was just simply pulling a flower off the end of a punty rod, and the caption in the video said, "I may not be pretty, but I make pretty things." And that was just me being like, you know what? I see what you guys are hyper focused on, but I wish you would just look at what I'm making. And that video, I got over 2,500 comments on that one video alone. And every single one of those comments was someone being supportive and telling me, oh, don't be so hard on yourself. You're in a dirty situation. Of course, you're not supposed to look pretty. And, people were so supportive and just being like, hey, this is not about looks. You're making amazing things. You don't have to look pretty and be working in these conditions at the same time. That's not a requirement. And because of all of that love, I have never since apologized online for how I look. I know a lot of creators online will apologize. Oh, I'm so sorry. I look rough. I haven't done my makeup today. No, I'm not going to say that. This is how I am. This is how I look. And this is what we're making today. And if you can't get on board with this video just based on my excitement for what we are doing and what I am sharing with you today, then you don't have to be here. As Elise Meyer says, go find less. If I'm too much, go find less.
So good.
Mm-hmm. And I almost feel like sometimes the internet focuses too much on something that isn't even relevant to the video itself anyway. So
oh yeah
yeah, I love that you and so many other like creators especially have been just being like, nope, we're sick of having to do up our face and have fancy hair and look super pretty and primed when we're doing things that are dirty.
Oh yeah. And I post videos that'll have like, I will get like smudges down my face just by working with the paper so much. I'll have soot in random places, and I don't wipe it away before I film. I'm filming and I'm excited, and I might wear eyeliner into the hot shop and maybe it starts coming down and melting with me. I don't wipe it away before I start filming because of that response that I got from that one video. I have not apologized for how I look. I might get one or two trolls here and there, but for the most part, they get squashed by other people in the comments that are like, hey, no, we don't do that here. And I absolutely love it. I try and in my online persona, I try and, just let people know, hey, you don't have to look pretty to make pretty things. That's not the focus of what we're doing. And I'm not going to apologize for, the fact that I look like I have rolled around in cinders. I'm playing in the hot shop. That makes me happy. And if that makes me happy, that is all that matters.
And really, it's not realistically safe to be in the hot shop, like all dolled up. You know what I mean?
No, it's not.
Mascara burns.
You need to be covered. You need to be safe. You need to be comfortable.
I would rather be sensible in my jeans and my t-shirt and, my Converse shoes.
Okay, so what is your personal definition of success? Or do you feel like you are successful at this point?
I think to me, it's success is being happy with what you're doing. I know it sounds kind of like a lame answer, but that's definitely been my focus. My goal in life is to be happy. If I am happy, I am successful. And I know that if I am happy and I'm sharing that happiness with others and they catch that same fire of excitement for what I'm doing and the things that I'm showing them, I'm super successful at that point, because I have then shared that fire and that passion and that drive for what it is that I'm doing. And when it comes to glass, I'm super successful. I love being able to get on social media, especially TikTok, and be able to share how passionate I am about glass. Oh, you want to know about this? Let me tell you, because that makes me excited. That makes me happy. And that makes me successful. I've sold some pieces. I've got pieces for sale in a museum gift shop right now, but that doesn't define my success. My success is being happy with what I'm doing.
It's kind of like going backwards a little bit, but I was wondering if you had any experiences with depression or anxiety and if you were comfortable sharing it.
Yeah, actually, I have CPTSD. So it's complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And with that comes a lot of anxiety. And it's a struggle. It really is a struggle. I found that when working through anxiety and depression, art is definitely the best therapy for me. We had an art therapy program at the school, and I learned from just talking with some of the people in that program. But just continuing to do art has helped my mental health so much. And when it came to dealing with my PTSD, glass blowing itself was actually my best art therapy, because you have to be so focused on the present and so aware of your surroundings. It is very grounding. And that is a really good thing, especially when it comes to PTSD, when a traumatic incident is fresh. When I had, in about my third semester of glass, I'd had a traumatic incident happen, and my triggers were all over the place. And it was really frustrating because everything would kind of bring me to a meltdown. And I took solace in the glass shop And that's when I actually started spending about 80 hours a week in the glass shop. And it was not just because I was learning some amazing, cool things, but also because it helped me to ground myself. I could go there, I could ground myself, I could get in the present, and I could start and just make something. Just make, start with a cup. If you can make a cup, you can make anything. And when you need to ground yourself or get in a headspace of making, if you've gotten stuck or anything, make a cup. You make a cup and you just go from there. Okay, well, what can I make next? Because usually making one thing helps get you in that headspace of I'm in the present. And for me, glass blowing has been the best therapy to get in there and be able to learn how to pull myself into the present. And even when I'm outside of the hot shop, I am able to, do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method, where it's when you start to feel overwhelmed with anxiety, you start thinking, all right, how do I pull myself into the present? What are 5 things that you can see? What are 4 things that you can smell? What are 3 things that you can hear? What are 2 things that you can taste? And what's 1 thing that you can feel? And you just, by pulling on all those senses and like bringing yourself into the present and being able to ground yourself, it's very much like being in the hot shop and going, okay, where are all the hot points that I have to be aware of? Where are all, the people that I have to be aware of that have these hot things? Where are all the sharp tools? Where do I have to be? And that's what you think of in the hot shop to kind of ground yourself. And in the same way, I've been able to kind of like pull that into outside the hot shop. Okay, all right, I'm getting triggered. I'm having a hard time. I'm starting to get really, really anxious. Let me calm myself down by kind of like thinking, all right, if this is the hot shop, what do I have to pay attention to? What do I have to think about? So that is definitely how I've had to deal with anxiety.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing.
I think it's good to share experiences. Mental health problems are all over. We live in a time these days where everything is traumatic and everyone is experiencing trauma, and not everybody knows how to deal with it. And the more that you experience trauma without knowing how to handle it properly, how to funnel it into something, whether it's doing one long writing out exactly how you feel, and then you're able to get it out and then you don't have to think about it, or creating a sculpture that is how you feel in this moment, or creating something out of glass that is how you feel in this moment. Unless you know how to channel it, you won't properly be able to work through it, and then it can cause problems. And I feel like talking about mental health and making these problems very commonplace, that is how we will start to get better. We're moving past the stigma. And I love that we're moving past the stigma that, oh, you have mental health problems? Oh, snap. Oh, let's not talk. No, I want to be able to openly talk about these things with people. In the same respect, on TikTok, I show my failures. It's the same type of thing. It would be easy for me to only show all of the good things on my social medias, all of the things that made it, that are exactly how I wanted, that are, close to perfect. But it's harder to say, all right, I'm gonna be super vulnerable with you. And guess what? I tried this thing and it did not go well. And this is how it ended up. But we're gonna try again. And by being honest and saying, well, this didn't work. Oh, snap. Okay, let's try again. That helps someone else to know, oh, okay, so you mean I don't have to have it perfect on the same try? Because like I just watched you do it perfect on the first try that I saw you do it, and they don't see that behind the scenes. Well, it took you 27 times to try and get that one shape, a go. And if they see you fail, and that's one thing. Yeah, one of my teachers, Ed Francis, when he would give demonstrations to the class, he did not cover up his failures either. And I took that lesson from him. He was big on, all right, we're going to do this thing. And he might take a couple of risks that he wouldn't have otherwise. And well, snap, it did not go as planned. There were things that fell off. And he would just be like, well, sometimes that happens. All right, let's try again. And being able to witness someone who, like Ed Francis, has been doing glass for 37 years. For someone who has 37 years worth of practice under his belt, to see him fail at something that he knows how to do, that was amazing. That let up on the pressure for the rest of us to be like, oh, okay, I can fail in front of you and it's gonna be okay. And in that same light, I want to show other people, hey, guess what? I did not do this right. Oopsie. Oh, well, we'll try again. Because I know in turn, that will relieve the stigma of failing in front of people. My imposter syndrome comes about when I'm doing glass work in front of other glass blowers, especially ones that I know have experience or that I see as very successful. When I work at the Chrysler, there's a lot of people at different levels that are in the building. You have people that have been doing it for 10, 15 years, 30 years. And then they also have a room for visitors to come in. Give me a visitor any day. Let me know that they know nothing about glass. Awesome. I will teach you about glass as I'm doing my thing, and that's okay. But make me sit in front of people who have been doing it for 25 years, and I'm like, oh gosh, should I even be here? Oh snap, I don't know. But like the confidence to fail and go, well, that didn't work out. I'm gonna try again. The I'm gonna try again is really what gets you going, and that starts removing the stigma in your own self of, okay, I failed in front of them, but none of them are pointing fingers. They're not telling me that I did a really bad job. They might offer me a few pointers. Oh, okay, it's okay to fail in front of people. And in the same aspect of it's okay to fail in front of people, it's okay to admit your mental health isn't perfect. It's okay to not be okay. That's just how it is. And I feel like we just need to move forward and have that be the norm.
I want to ask if you have any conclusions, but like that was a conclusion.
That was like perfect.
Like, do you have like anything that you want to say to end it?
So I think the only other thing that I would want to make sure that everybody knows, and it kind of like goes with that whole rant, is the best quote in glassblowing that I have ever heard. And I've heard and written down a lot of quotes in my glass recipe notebooks, is perfection is an impossible goal. Aim for perfection, but settle for great. Great is meeting your goal. I feel like a lot of artists, when they start glass blowing, feel like they have to have it perfect right away. You don't have to have it perfect right away. You are going to fail. It's going to take you a hot minute to figure out how you do things and how you get to that goal. And you're going to have to learn from other people. You're going to have to learn how you work. If you expect yourself to have that perfection right off the bat, you're not going to get it. And it's only going to frustrate you and frustrate you and frustrate you. And you might even quit before you have the, way to reach your potential. So instead of demanding perfection of yourself, you aim for that perfection. You aim for that. But when you hit great. When you hit, oh, you know what? I made this Veronese vase and it's a little bit wonky, but it has all the main parts of a Veronese vase that you need. You need the vase, you need the ball stem, you need the blown foot. Hey, it has all three of those. So technically, I've met my goal. It is not perfect. It is not as thin as it would be if a Venetian master made it. But guess what? I am not a Venetian master. So that is my favorite quote from glassblowing. It was said by Ed Francis, our teacher. He's amazing. And it's just something that it applies to glass, but it also applies to life. Like, just in general, it is this amazing thing of don't demand perfection of yourself, because if you do, then you're always going to fail. Yeah, if you don't succeed, you got to try it like a million more times.
All right, ladies. Well, thank you so much for your time.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Connected in Glass. Make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram for more information on the artists we interview and for updates on the podcast.